It was supposed to be a routine Wednesday meeting, project updates, maybe talk about the new safety protocols, nothing major. But the second Chuck Caldwell cleared his throat and said, "I've got some big news today," I felt my gut twist. Something was wrong. He stood at the front of our conference room with that grin he always wore when he was about to screw someone over, the kind that never touched his eyes. "Starting next month," Chuck announced, "we're officially naming Austin Caldwell as the new operations director for Maverick Construction Group." The room erupted in applause. People actually clapped. I sat there staring like I'd been hit with a 2x4. Austin, the 28-year-old who still couldn't read a foundation plan without calling for backup. "My name is Tom Harrison. I'm 49 years old. I live in San Antonio, Texas. And for the last 6 years, I've been running field operations at Maverick Construction. Site evaluations, permitting, contractor coordination, all of it. I was the guy chasing down city approvals while Austin was still learning how to use Excel in business school. Just 8 months ago, Chuck introduced him as a management trainee who wants to understand the business from the ground up. I clapped for that, too. Stupid me. I clapped again now, hands moving like they weren't even connected to my brain. Chuck kept talking, beaming at Austin like the proud father he was, because that's exactly what he was. "I want to especially thank Tom for showing Austin the ropes these past months," Chuck said, looking right at me. "Couldn't have done it without your mentorship." My collar felt tight. I loosened my tie without thinking. Austin gave this awkward wave like he knew he didn't deserve it. Kid was trying to look humble, but those $300 boots and designer shirt told a different story. Chuck went on about fresh perspectives and innovative leadership while I stared at the wall, pretending to listen. My ears buzzed like I was drowning. 6 years. 6 years of 12-hour days, working weekends, dragging my butt to city council meetings to get projects approved, thinking it was all building towards something, but it wasn't. This was always the plan. They never intended to promote me. I was just the babysitter, the tour guide, the guy who did the real work while the golden boy learned how to be my boss. I turned back to my laptop, opened our project tracker, and stared at the numbers. But all I could see were the last 6 years going up in smoke. 6 years earlier, I'd joined Maverick fresh off the worst period of my life. My son Jake had just deployed to Afghanistan for his second tour. My daughter-in-law couldn't handle it, took the kids and moved back to her mother's in Oklahoma. That left me with my 2 granddaughters, Sarah and Emma, ages 10 and 6 at the time. I needed steady work, good insurance, something reliable. Chuck Caldwell promised me both. He told me during the interview that he was impressed with my background in municipal planning and swore I'd grow fast. At Maverick, "You're exactly the kind of experienced hand we need," he told me. The man said I had real expertise, and I believed him. I threw everything into that job. Site inspections in 105-degree Texas heat, writing proposals until midnight, keeping contractors in line when they tried to cut corners, permitting, surveys, client meetings. I didn't just learn Maverick's system, I became it. Some nights I'd crash on the office couch, laptop still open because I couldn't stop thinking about foundation specs or drainage requirements. It was August when I started, middle of another brutal San Antonio summer. But I didn't care. I had work, I had purpose, and I had 2 granddaughters counting on me. Sarah would look at me over breakfast and ask, "You coming to my volleyball game tonight, Grandpa?" I'd promise I would, but volleyball always turned into just one more walkthrough or one more contract issue. Emma was quieter. She'd just nod when I explained why I had to work late again, but I could see it in her eyes. She understood more than a 6-year-old should have to. Chuck noticed my dedication. He'd call me into his office every few months, casual as you please, telling me how valuable I was to the company. That bigger opportunities were coming. I just had to stay patient. It wasn't just talk either. I got bigger projects, more responsibility, started handling our major municipal contracts. At some point, I figured I was next in line for operations director. Who else was there? Chuck's older son had moved to Denver years ago, wanted nothing to do with construction. Then, 8 months ago, Chuck stopped me in the hallway. "Hey, heads up. My younger boy Austin's starting Monday, fresh out of UT with his MBA, just wants to see how the business runs. Mind if he shadows you a bit?" "Sure," I told him. Figured it was some kind of summer internship thing, maybe a month of observation before he moved into accounting or admin work. Instead, in walks Austin Caldwell on a Monday morning, looking like he just stepped out of a business magazine. Designer clothes, expensive watch, that entitled swagger you see in kids who've never wanted for anything. He offered me a handshake and said, "You must be Tom. Dad says you're the backbone of operations here." That smile wasn't respectful. It was practiced, like he already knew where this was headed, and I was just a speed bump. Still, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I'd seen plenty of rich kids wash out of construction when they realized it wasn't all boardrooms and PowerPoint presentations. But Austin started showing up everywhere. Every site visit, every permit meeting, every call with city officials. I'd walk into a contractor review, and there he'd be, already sitting in the chair next to mine, checking his phone like he was bored. One time I was explaining OSHA compliance to a new subcontractor, and Austin interrupted to ask if there was some kind of app that could streamline all this paperwork. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. The thing is, I trained him without realizing what I was doing. I answered his questions, gave him access to my files, even covered for him when he screwed up a permit application because I thought I was being helpful, thought I was being a team player. Turns out I was just training my replacement. I stopped giving him slack that same week. It was Thursday evening, close to 8 o'clock. Office was empty except for the cleaning crew and the hum from the coffee machine down the hall. I was at my desk reviewing inspection reports for a Northwest Side project we'd nearly lost last month. Austin had left hours earlier, probably off at some happy hour downtown. I was packing up when I heard voices from Chuck's office. Door was cracked just enough to hear. "Still no word on that operations director slot?" a man asked. I recognized the voice. Bill Torres, one of our biggest investors. Been with Maverick since the early days. There was a pause, then Chuck's laugh, low and smug. "Tom's solid in the field, but that's where he belongs. Austin's got the MBA. He understands where the industry's heading, plus he's family." Family. I set my briefcase down real quiet and listened. Bill pushed back. "Tom's the one who's kept your projects on schedule the last few years." "Yeah," Chuck replied. "But Austin's got the education and the vision. Tom's old school. Good at what he does, but Austin's the future." I stepped away from the door, grabbed my keys, and left. Didn't say goodnight to anyone. That night I sat on my back porch, letting the evening breeze cool things down, and called my old buddy Carlos Martinez. We'd worked together for years before I came to Maverick. "Carlos," I began, "you ever feel like the work you do doesn't matter to the people writing the checks?" He laughed. "Every day, Tom." "Why?" "Just making sure I'm not losing my mind." "You're not. You thinking about making a move?" "Maybe." "Good. You've been settling for too long." But that Wednesday morning, sitting in the conference room watching Chuck hand Austin his leather portfolio, all those years felt wasted. The applause died down. People went back to their desks. I stayed in my chair for a minute, staring at nothing. Then I stood up, walked to my desk, opened Word, and typed 3 lines. No fancy language, no emotional speeches, just facts. Effective 2 weeks from today, I resigned from my position at Maverick Construction Group. Thomas Harrison. I printed it, signed it, and walked straight to Chuck's office. He was still grinning when I knocked. "Hey, Tom. Perfect timing. I was just going to—" "I'm resigning." I dropped the letter on his desk. 2 weeks' notice. His smile froze, then melted. "Wait, what?" He picked up the letter like it was written in Chinese. "You're serious?" I nodded. Already sent a copy to HR. He stood up, hands out like he was calming a spooked horse. "Okay, let's not do anything hasty here. I know the promotion might have caught you off guard, but there's room for growth. This isn't the end of your career path." I didn't move. "You've built something here, Tom. Your reputation means something," he continued, starting to sweat. "And I know you've got responsibilities. 2 granddaughters, a mortgage, bills. Let's be honest, jumping ship right now isn't smart." There it was, the guilt trip. I'd been expecting it. "I'm aware of my situation," I replied, "and I'm not jumping anywhere. I'm walking away." Chuck stepped around his desk. "Look, how about this? We create a senior position for you, senior operations coordinator. Same pay, maybe a bump in 6 months. You'd work under Austin, sure, but you'd have full oversight of—" "No." He blinked. "Just like that?" "Just like that." He sat back down slower this time. "If you leave like this, I can't guarantee good references. You've built your whole network through this company. That's proprietary knowledge walking out the door. I tilted my head. You threatening me? He held up his hands. I'm trying to protect you from making a mistake. The mistake was staying this long. I headed for the door. I'll finish my 2 weeks. I'll even make sure Austin doesn't tank the West Side project. But after that, you're on your own. His jaw tightened. He looked like he wanted to throw something. I walked out and closed the door behind me. Didn't slam it, didn't need to. Just went back to my desk and started organizing my files. Monday morning, I walked in like any other day, coffee in hand, ready to wrap up my final 2 weeks. Austin was already at my desk, or trying to be. He had 2 monitors open, a legal pad covered in chicken scratch, and the look of someone who hadn't slept. Hey, he managed, voice tight. Got a minute? I think we have a problem. I looked over his shoulder. Spreadsheets, budget reports, cost projections, and a big red warning in the corner of one screen. Wait, I pointed out. Is that the compliance deadline for the medical center site? I think so, he admitted. I don't know. It popped up in an email this morning. That was due last Friday, Austin. His mouth opened, then closed. That triggers a $15,000 late penalty if we don't get the paperwork filed by close of business today. But we can't file until the civil engineering team signs off on the revised drainage plan that you were supposed to approve last week. He stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. I leaned over and started clicking through windows. The drainage calculations were off by 3%. Doesn't sound like much until you realize that means standing water against the foundation during storm season. The city engineer caught it during review. We got lucky, this is fixable, I explained. But if we don't get it submitted today, it's going to cost our client $15,000. Austin dragged his hands down his face. I didn't even know I was supposed to handle that part. You're supposed to handle all of it now. I walked him through it, pulled the engineering file, cleaned up the technical language, marked the right sections for review, and called the civil team to make sure they could turn it around before 4 o'clock. Austin just sat there nodding, sweating, asking questions like, do we need soil samples for this one too? I didn't answer that one. By the time I got back to my own desk, my phone was ringing. Jerry Walsh, project manager for one of our biggest clients. Tom, he began, I just got a call from someone named Austin. Is that who's taking over your projects? That's right. Long pause. We've got a city planning meeting next Tuesday. If I show up and this kid doesn't know how to handle those folks, I'm walking. Just fair warning. I kept my voice neutral. Understood. An hour later, another call. Pete Gonzalez from the commercial development side. Same story. By afternoon, I had 6 messages, all from clients asking some version of, are you really leaving? And who do we call when things go wrong? I answered them all professionally. But inside, I could see what was happening. Chuck hadn't just screwed me over. He'd set Austin up to fail. The kid wasn't ready, not even close. He wasn't supposed to lead. He was supposed to inherit. I leaned back in my chair and watched the emails pile up. Austin had the title, but I still had the relationships. And those clients were making it crystal clear who they trusted. Chuck's assistant knocked on my door right after lunch. He wants to see you. Now. I didn't ask what it was about. I already knew. His door was open, but he closed it hard when I walked in. Austin was slumped in one of the chairs, looking like a kid who'd been caught cheating. Chuck stood by the window, arms crossed. Didn't offer me a seat. I've been getting calls, he started, voice sharp. Lots of calls. Clients saying they're confused about who's running their projects. I remained silent. He turned around. You're sabotaging our client relationships, Tom. You're using your position to undermine Austin while you're still on payroll. No, I responded. I'm answering questions. They're calling because they're nervous. You threw them at Austin with 0 transition and expected instant loyalty. That's not how business works. He stepped closer. This isn't about hurt feelings. This is business, and you're sharing proprietary information with outsiders. I raised an eyebrow. What proprietary information? Internal processes. Client strategies. That's confidential company knowledge. There's no non-compete in my contract, I pointed out. No NDA either. Everything I've discussed with clients has been about their specific projects and deadlines. Nothing about Maverick's internal operations. Austin cleared his throat like he wanted to say something. Chuck snapped, "Stay quiet." Austin looked at the floor. Let's be clear, I continued, staying calm. I haven't made promises to anyone. Haven't solicited a single contract. But if clients decide to take their business elsewhere after I'm gone, that's on you, not me. Chuck put both hands on his desk, trying to stare me down. You think you're irreplaceable? No, I replied. Think I'm trusted. That's different. He opened his mouth, but I cut him off. And I've kept my word. I'm still here, still finishing the 2 weeks, still willing to help Austin learn the job. I looked at Austin. You need to understand the permitting process inside and out, not just the deadlines, but why they exist. And you need to stop expecting city officials to hold your hand. They assume you know this stuff already. Austin nodded without looking up. Yeah, okay. Chuck didn't say anything. I let the silence hang there, then headed for the door. Let me know when you want to start that training, Austin. I'll make time this week. I walked out without waiting for an answer. Behind me, I could hear Chuck muttering under his breath. Austin still hadn't moved. By Thursday, I'd had enough of watching the place fall apart. I took a long lunch and drove across town to Texas Premier Development. Their office sat on the 15th floor of a modern building in the medical center area, the kind of place where the elevators worked and the coffee came from an actual machine. Carmen Rodriguez was waiting when I stepped off the elevator. Sharp suit, no-nonsense attitude, same direct energy she'd had when I met her at a construction expo 2 years back. Tom, she greeted me, shaking my hand like we were closing a deal. About time. I smiled. Had to wrap some things up first. She led me into a corner office with a view of downtown and a whiteboard covered with active project maps. I won't waste your time, she began. We've wanted you here for over a year. You've got the experience, the connections, and people trust you. She handed me a printed offer. I didn't need to sit down to read it. Operations Director. $88,000 plus performance bonuses. Company truck, full benefits, start immediately. I stared at the number. It was 35% more than Maverick had ever paid me. For the same title Chuck had handed Austin like a participation trophy. Carmen sat on the edge of her desk. This isn't charity. You bring value. City connections, reliable contractors, clients who answer when you call. We're not just hiring you. We're hiring your reputation. It wasn't a hard choice. I'm in, I told her, sliding the offer back across the desk. Carmen grinned. Smart move. We've got 4 sites in development, 2 in Austin, 1 in Houston, 1 here in San Antonio. I want you leading the local project by next month. I'll be ready. As we walked back toward the elevator, I spotted a site plan I recognized. Same lot I'd tried to pitch at Maverick 8 months ago. Chuck had passed on it. Carmen caught me looking. Yeah, we picked that up after Maverick dropped out. That's going to be a gold mine once the zoning goes through. I nodded. Of course it was. As the elevator doors opened, she turned with a slight smile. Don't be surprised how fast your old clients find us. Trust follows good people. She wasn't wrong. I wasn't leaving empty-handed. I was taking everything that mattered. 6 months later, I had 3 major projects running. 1 in Austin, 1 in Houston, and a big mixed-use development here in San Antonio. Texas Premier didn't micromanage. They gave me the resources and let me work. Carmen backed my decisions, even the risky ones. We built fast, clean, and under budget. Contractors picked up when I called. City planners took my meetings without delay. It felt like working at full power again. No politics, no babysitting, just results. Jerry Walsh called my second week at Texas Premier. He mentioned he was moving his retail project to us. Pete Gonzalez followed 2 weeks later. By month 3, we'd picked up 5 former Maverick clients without me making a single sales pitch. They just found their way over, asking if I could handle their work. I could. Sarah's a senior now, captain of her volleyball team. Emma's 14, already talking about engineering like her dad. They both noticed the change right away. You actually come to games now, Sarah observed after we beat Reagan High for the district title. Yeah, I responded. I do. Jake called from his base in Colorado that same week. He's stationed there now, training new recruits. Dad, he began. My CO asked if I was related to Tom Harrison at Texas Premier. He mentioned you're the guy who actually gets things done. I smiled. Tell him I appreciate that. I did. He wants to grab coffee next time he's in San Antonio. Talk about some veteran housing projects coming up. I'd like that. I was reviewing plans for our 4th project when Carmen walked in with a rolled-up magazine. Thought you'd want to see this, she announced, tossing it on my desk. Texas Construction Weekly. The headline was brutal. Maverick Construction loses major contracts after management shakeup. Right underneath, a picture of Austin at some industry event, looking completely lost. Sweat stains visible, mouth half open mid-sentence. The article laid it all out. Client defections, missed permit deadlines, 2 project delays, contractors pulling out due to communication failures and payment disputes. Chuck had been forced out after an investor rebellion led by Bill Torres, the same guy who'd been in that office 8 months ago talking about Austin's MBA. Austin resigned 3 weeks later after a disaster at a city council meeting where he fumbled basic zoning questions on live TV. The video made the rounds in industry groups, not the kind of attention anyone wants. I stared at Austin's photo for a long moment. Kid looked like he wanted to disappear. Carmen sat across from me. They claimed you were just a field guy, a hands-on worker. They did. She tapped the magazine. Turns out you were the foundation. I nodded once. Didn't need to say more. A few weeks later, I was driving back from a site inspection in New Braunfels when I stopped for lunch at a place called Builders Junction, one of those spots where contractors and inspectors grab food between jobs. I slid into a booth and ordered coffee and a sandwich. That's when I saw him, Austin. He was 2 booths over, hunched over a stack of textbooks and construction manuals, pencil behind his ear. No designer clothes, no entitled attitude, just him and a legal pad covered with notes and diagrams. I watched for a second, then walked over. He looked up, startled. "Tom, hey, I didn't expect to see you here." "Good place for lunch," I noted, nodding at the books. "What's all this?" "Night classes," he explained. "Construction management, started a few weeks ago. Working during the day too. Entry-level project coordinator at a small firm in Seguin. Learning the basics you thought you could skip?" He smiled, but there wasn't any fight left in it. "Yeah. Turns out there's a lot I didn't know, a lot I should have learned before I got that promotion, like the $15,000 penalty." "Yeah, that too." Long pause. He didn't look up right away. Then he continued. "Thanks for not destroying me during those 2 weeks. You could have, but you didn't." I shrugged. "Wasn't my job to ruin you. I get that now." I looked at his notebook. Real formulas, actual specifications, the kind of stuff you can't fake your way through. Load calculations, permit requirements, the fundamentals I'd learned over 25 years. "I respect that you're doing the work now," I told him. "It'll take time, but it'll stick." He smiled, small but genuine. "That means something, coming from you." I tapped the table twice and turned to leave. At the door, I turned back. "You're doing it right this time. That matters." He didn't argue, just nodded. I stepped out into the Texas heat, put on my sunglasses, and got in my truck. My phone buzzed. Text from Sarah. "Grandpa, you free Saturday? District playoffs. We need our good luck charm there." I texted back, "Wouldn't miss it." Then I drove home. Emma would be there, probably working on homework at the kitchen table. Maybe I'd fire up the grill, sit outside while the evening cooled down, and just be present. 6 years ago, I thought I was building something at Maverick. Turns out I was just building someone else's empire. But now I'm building my own legacy, one that includes being there for the people who matter most. The work speaks for itself, the clients follow quality, and at the end of the day, I'm home where I belong. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's proving you were worth more than they ever realized.